Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the most pivotal conflicts in history. And I'm your host, General Biography. Today, we're going to explore one of the most decisive battles in Japanese history, the Battle of Sekigahara. This epic clash took place on October 21, 1600, and it would change the course of Japan's future forever. But before we dive into the battle itself, let's set the stage by examining the precursors and origins of this pivotal conflict. The story of Sekigahara begins in the late 16th century, when Japan was a country torn apart by civil war. The once mighty Ashikaga shogunate had collapsed, and various daimyos, or feudal lords, were vying for power. One of these daimyos was Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a brilliant military strategist who had unified much of Japan under his rule. However, after Hideyoshi's death in 1598, his young son, Toyotomi Hideyori, inherited his vast territories and wealth. But Hideyori's position was precarious. Many daimyos were loyal to the Toyotomi clan, but others were wary of their power and sought to expand their own domains. One such daimyo was Tokugawa Ieyasu, a cunning and ambitious leader who had been a key ally of Hideyoshi's. Ieyasu had his own plans for Japan, and he began to secretly gather support among the other daimyos. As tensions rose, the country became increasingly divided. The Toyotomi loyalists, led by Ishida Mitsunari, a brilliant but hot-headed strategist, saw Ieyasu as a threat to their power and vowed to stop him. Meanwhile, Ieyasu claimed that he was merely trying to protect Hideyori from rival factions and maintain order in the country. The stage for Sekigahara was set in 1599, when Ieyasu began to consolidate his power in the eastern provinces of Japan. He formed alliances with other daimyos, including the powerful Uesugi clan, and started to build a massive army. Mitsunari, sensing Ieyasu's intentions, rallied his own forces and marched towards Sekigahara, a strategic crossroads in what is now Gifu Prefecture. Sekigahara was a crucial location where the Nakasendo Highway, one of Japan's main thoroughfares, intersected with several other key roads. Control of this area would grant the victor access to the surrounding countryside and allow them to dictate the terms of the conflict. The landscape around Sekigahara was characterized by rolling hills, narrow valleys, and dense forests, which would play a significant role in the upcoming battle. As the two armies gathered, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Daimyos across Japan were forced to choose between supporting the Tokugawa or Toyotomi factions, and many were torn between loyalty, duty, and self-interest. The fate of Japan hung in the balance as the country teetered on the brink of chaos. The events leading up to Sekigahara were marked by intrigue, deception, and shifting alliances. Daimyos like Kobayakawa Hidaki, a powerful leader from the western provinces, played both sides against each other, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Others, like Iya Nayomasa, a loyal Tokugawa ally, prepared for battle, knowing that their fate would be decided on the fields of Sekigahara. As the two armies gathered at Sekigahara, the atmosphere was electric with tension. The Tokugawa forces, led by Ieyasu, numbered around 88,000 men, while the Toyotomi loyalists under Mitsunari's command had approximately 82,000 troops. The stage was set for a brutal and decisive conflict. The battle began early in the morning as the two armies clashed on the fog-shrouded fields of Sekigahara. The Tokugawa forces were arrayed in a defensive position, with their backs to the nearby hills. Mitsunari's army, meanwhile, launched a series of fierce attacks, hoping to break through the Tokugawa lines. One of the key factors that influenced the outcome of the battle was the defection of several daimyos who had initially supported the Toyotomi cause. Notably, Kobayakawa Hideki, who commanded 15,000 men, switched sides at a crucial moment, attacking the Toyotomi forces from behind and causing chaos in their ranks. The fighting was intense and brutal, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. However, the Tokugawa forces held firm thanks to their superior defensive position and Ieyasu's cunning tactics. As the day wore on, the Toyotomi army began to falter, and by mid-afternoon they were in full retreat. The aftermath of the battle was devastating for the Toyotomi clan. Mitsunari was captured and later executed, while many other daimyos who had supported the losing side were forced to surrender or flee. Ieyasu, on the other hand, emerged victorious. his power and influence now unrivaled in Japan. The Battle of Sekigahara marked a turning point in Japanese history as it led to the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule the country for the next 250 years. Ieyasu's victory also brought an end to the civil wars that had ravaged Japan for centuries, ushering in a period of relative peace and stability. As we reflect on the Battle of Sekigahara, it's clear that this conflict was not just a clash of arms, but a struggle for power, influence, and ideology. The battle showcased the tactical genius of Ieyasu, who outmaneuvered his opponents at every turn, as well as the bravery and sacrifice of the thousands of soldiers who fought on both sides. The establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, which ruled Japan from 1603 to 1868, marked a significant turning point in Japanese history. Ieyasu's victory at Sekigahara brought an end to the civil wars that had ravaged Japan for centuries, ushering in a period of relative peace and stability. The Tokugawa regime implemented a strict social hierarchy, with the shogun at the top, followed by the daimyos, samurai, farmers, artisans, and merchants. This rigid class system helped maintain order and stability, but also limited social mobility and innovation. One of the key legacies of Sekigahara was the development of a unique Japanese culture, which blended traditional and modern elements. The Tokugawa period saw a flourishing of arts, literature, and architecture, as well as the emergence of new forms of entertainment, such as kabuki theater and ukiyo-e, woodblock prints. The city of Edo, now modern-day Tokyo, became a major cultural center, attracting artists, writers, and intellectuals from across Japan. The Tokugawa regime also implemented a policy of isolationism known as sakoku, which closed off Japan to the outside world for over 2 centuries. This policy helped preserve Japanese culture and traditions, but also limited the country's exposure to new ideas, technologies, and innovations. The legacy of sakoku can still be seen in modern-day Japan, where the country continues to balance its desire for international engagement with a strong sense of national identity and cultural preservation. As we reflect on the Battle of Sekigahara, it's clear that this conflict had far-reaching consequences for Japanese society, politics, and culture. The establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate brought stability and order, but also limited social mobility and innovation. The development of a unique Japanese culture, which blended traditional and modern elements, continues to shape the country's identity and inform its relationships with the outside world. In the words of Ieyasu himself, "The strong will always prey on the weak, but it is the strong who must also be just." This quote encapsulates the complexities and nuances of the Tokugawa period, where strength, power, and justice were constantly negotiated and balanced. The strong sense of discipline and self-control that defined the Tokugawa period also had a profound impact on Japanese philosophy and spirituality. The concept of Bushido, or the way of the warrior, emphasized the importance of loyalty, honor, and self-discipline, and continues to influence Japanese thought and culture to this day. As we look back on the Battle of Sekigahara, we're reminded that history is not just a series of battles won and lost, but a complex and multifaceted narrative that continues to shape our world today. The legacy of Sekigahara can be seen in modern-day Japan, from its unique culture and traditions to its economic and political systems. In conclusion, the Battle of Sekigahara was a pivotal moment in Japanese history, marking the beginning of a new era of peace and stability under the Tokugawa shogunate. The legacy of this conflict continues to shape Japanese society, politics, and culture, from its unique blend of traditional and modern elements to its strong sense of national identity and cultural preservation. As we reflect on the lessons of Sekigahara, we're reminded that history is a rich and complex tapestry, full of nuances and contradictions, and that the consequences of our actions continue to shape our world today. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of history's most fascinating conflicts. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.